What's good, y'all? I'm Jerry. About to check out 10 WWE Dream matches that only happen once. These videos are by Cultaholic Wrestling. I know for a fact that two dream matches that only happened one time was first will be The Rock versus Eddie Guerrero on the episode of Raw back in 2002, and they had a tremendous chemistry, amazing chemistry in that match. Eddie did one of the most amazing counters when he countered the rock bottom and turned it to a type of roll up pin. And the second one had to be Shawn Michaels versus Jeff Hardy on another episode of Raw, but this time it was from 2003. And we got to see The Rock versus Ric Flair on the episode of Raw back in the day. I wish we could have got to see Sting versus The Undertaker or Stone Cold versus Goldberg in a one-on-one match, but it didn't happen. So we about to hop into this video and see other matches, other dream matches that only happen once. Let's go.
WWE Dream Matches are typically confined to the minds of fans, and what a twisted place that is, but they do come to fruition every once in a while. Whilst we're never going to see Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan trading finishes or Bret Hart and Kurt Angle painting a pro wrestling masterpiece, we have been lucky enough to witness one-time only meetings between some of the biggest and best WWE stars. Whether these dream matches lived up to lofty expectations, however, is a different matter entirely. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 one-time WWE Dream Matches. Join us. Number 10, The Undertaker versus Ric Flair. When Ric Flair re-emerged in WWE at the tail end of 2001,
that was a pretty good match.
He was not the same nature boy he had been before. His confidence had been taken out of him due to the way he was treated in the dying days of WCW, and now in his early 50s doubted that he had what it took to get it done in the ring anymore. In only his second match since his return,
I ain't gonna lie,
Triple H helped overcome that crisis of confidence as he had a date with the dead man at WrestleMania 18. The match was intense as the personal storyline dictated and turned into an all-out brawl pretty quickly before Taker took control and began to wear down and bloody his opponents. There were a couple of hairy moments, yes, but it was never anything less than compelling, the drama ramping up considerably down the closing stretch with ref bumps and a fantastic run-in from Arn Anderson.
Hit a spine buster on Undertaker.
Intervention couldn't save his fellow horseman, however, as The Undertaker hit a tombstone and made it 10-0 on the grandest stage. They did have singles matches on house shows before and after this, but this is the only televised match between the two Hall of Famers.
Damn.
Number 9, Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan.
There was only one time that they fought each other.
Matches since his 2012 return have been one-off dream bouts due to the nature of the Beast Incarnate's part-time schedule and penchant for handpicking who he wants to work with, which is usually major stars like John Cena, Goldberg, and Roman Reigns. Of all the one-time only deals, his matches with CM Punk and AJ Styles were both top tier, but for the sheer "is this actually happening" weirdness of it all, Lesnar's match with Daniel Bryan from Survivor Series 2018 just about pips it. As fun as it is watching Brock throw down with one of his fellow monsters, he's arguably at his best when he's in there with a smaller, technically savvier opponent. The American Dragon was certainly that, and played a blinder in this David vs. Goliath WWE Champion versus Universal Champion stunner. The Beast took the bulk of the match and punished D-Bry with brutal suplexes, but the plucky Bryan never gave in and kept finding openings and ways to punish his much larger foe, who, it must be said, expertly sold a knee injury to create real doubt about the result. After almost 20 minutes of stellar action, Brock walked away with the victory, but knew he had been made to earn it. Number 8, Bret Hart versus Rocky Maivia. Dwayne Johnson has always been pretty good at this whole sports entertainment lark, but it's fair to say that in early 1997 he was still in the process of finding his way. Less than 6 months after his televised in-ring debut, Rocky Maivia defended his Intercontinental title against one of the very best to hold that particular belt. Headlining the March 31st, 1997 edition of Monday Night Raw, The Rock and a newly healed Bret Hart had a decent give-and-take encounter that would have no doubt been much better had it taken place a year or two later. As it was, the Hitman did his best to guide the promising rookie to something respectable. Hart personally liked Rocky and wanted him to look good prior to getting himself disqualified for not breaking his ring proposed figure 4 upon the referee's command. I do have to make a point of that because there were allegedly a couple of locker room degenerates who were more than happy to bury the Brahma Bull. This was not only the one televised singles meeting between these two legends, but their only singles match period, and so, while by no means a classic, it's certainly something to savour. Number 7, Rey Mysterio versus Rob Van Dam. To help hype the forthcoming one-night stand pay-per-view, WWE presented an ECW versus WWE head-to-head special on June 7th, 2006. While John Cena taking on Sabu in an Extreme Rules match might have been the main event, the match most people wanted to see, and which clearly stole the show, was the opener between former Tag Team Championship partners Rey Mysterio and Rob Van Dam. They had never met in singles combat, and while they were former allies and both perennial babyfaces, neither man held back when it came back to what they were willing to do to beat the other. As you would expect from a match between two such spectacular wrestlers, both men took to the skies and battered each other with a steel chair before RVD put the 619 away with a 5-star frog splash. Mysterio was World Heavyweight Champion at the time, but this was non-title. Not that the title needed to be at stake for it to be special, because this one-time meeting between a pair of the most innovative professional wrestlers ever was super special regardless. Number 6, Steve Austin versus Mr. Perfect. When interviewing the rapidly rising Stone Cold for an episode of Wrestling Challenge in 1996, Kurt Hennig lamented that the two couldn't wrestle as he was sure they would have a hell of a match. That was true at the time, with Mr. Perfect in enforced in-ring retirement due to an insurance payout he received because of a crippling back injury, but the situation had changed some 6 years later. Hennig, who had since come back to action for WCW, returned to WWE as an entrant in the 2002 Royal Rumble. He was only there for like a couple weeks. Found himself standing across the ring from the Texas Rattlesnake on Raw. While the novelty of seeing the two throw down is certainly there, the match itself was sadly nothing to write to Dave Meltzer about. This was down to multiple factors, like Hennig still hurting from his old back injury and Austin running pretty damn close to full-on burnout. At a fraction under 5 minutes long, the match didn't really have much time to get going before the inevitable stunner to finish. If they had been at 100% and were given additional time to play with, you would bet a 6-pack of Steve Weisers on them achieving greatness. Number 5, the Steiner Brothers versus Bret and Owen Hart. While most dream matches tend to be of the singles variety, there's nothing that says tags can't be in the mix too. Just days before Owen kicked Bret's leg out of his leg, and not long before Rick and Scott said "Fire" to WWE in favour of going back to Japan, WWE scrambled to book a bout between the two sets of brothers. The foursome was informed about the match, which ended up being shown as a Coliseum home video exclusive on the WrestleFest 94 tape shortly before being sent to the ring. And while both Bret and Scott contend it would have been way better if they had been given more time to prepare, the match the Harts and Steiners produced on pretty much no notice is a testament to their collective ability as performers. An all babyface affair, it was different in psychology and structure than pretty much any other tag match you're likely to see from the time, with lots of actual technical wrestling, as well as some really big heavy-duty moves such as a brutal Steiner screwdriver on Owen. In the end, there's nothing to separate them, and the match finishes on a double countout, which felt like a tease for a rematch that sadly never came. Number 4, Shawn Michaels versus Rob Van Dam. When Shawn Michaels made his improbable WWE return in 2002, every match he had was treated as though it could potentially be his last. After all, Michaels had been off for 4 years with what was thought to be a career-ending back injury. Perhaps conscious of this, WWE booked his first defense of the World Heavyweight title against a man whose career had skyrocketed in the Heartbreak Kid's absence. Rob Van Dam got the first crack at the gold in the main event of the November 25th, 2002 episode of Monday Night Raw. As Jim Ross mentioned in the opening exchanges, this very much was a dream match. The announcers also made a point to mention HBK's knackered back, which naturally played into the story of the match, Van Dam targeting the back and Shawn going after Van Dam's knee. As for the match itself, it was a rousing TV effort that lasted a shade under 9 minutes and hinted that the two men would be capable of bigger and better things if afforded more time and a grander stage, before that no-good rotten bastard Triple H spoiled everyone's fun by running in for the DQ.
Hey, who y'all think would have won that match on the bigger stage? Would it have been Shawn Michaels or would it have been Rob Van Dam, because that would have been a 5-star match. No pun intended to the 5-star frog splash, but I feel like that match would have definitely been one of the instant classic, one of the most memorable matches ever if it was on like a pay-per-view or WrestleMania or something like that. But we don't know if Shawn Michaels would have went over or Shawn Michaels would have gave RVD the rub and let RVD go over that night. But I want to hear y'all opinions about who y'all think will go over in that match, RVD or Shawn Michaels.
Ew, big nose bellend. Number 3, Shawn Michaels versus Jeff Hardy.
I mentioned this in the beginning of the video.
A young Jeff Hardy was constantly being compared to Shawn Michaels. Both were daredevils unafraid to take risks, both were ladder match specialists, and both, it was feared, would burn out before their careers fulfilled their full potential. When the two men finally clashed one-on-one in the main event of the February 11th, 2008 episode of Raw, they were older and ostensibly wiser, both men having left and come back after dealing with the dreaded personal demons. The charismatic Enigma was the Intercontinental Champion at the time, though his title was not up for grabs, sowing a seed of doubt about the potential result.
You can say John Cena versus Jeff Hardy.
Especially for free TV, the match saw both men trade the advantage, and because of how beloved Hardy was, allowed Michaels, as the more seasoned veteran, to display an aggressive side as he led things along. There were some great near falls down the closing stretch, creating a sense that things really could go either way, before Jeff countered Sweet Chin music and hit a twist of fate and Swanton Bomb for the clean win. Number 2, The Rock versus Eddie Guerrero.
Monday Night Raw.
When Eddie Guerrero came back to WWE in the spring of 2002,
this was the night after The Rock won the title at Vengeance
we mentioned just a minute ago. He was leaner, meaner, and ready to show the world what Latino heat was all about. There was no greater test than a Raw main event with The Rock, which is what Guerrero found himself tasked with on July 22nd, 2002. The fans were into everything they did, with Eddie dictating the pace and the People's Champ, who was also undisputed champ at this time, though this bout was non-title, timing his comebacks perfectly. It's not the longest match, going around 8.5 minutes, but they managed to pack a few thrills in there, such as Guerrero's exquisite rock bottom counter for a great near fall. Eddie got to shine and showed that he could hang with the biggest star in the company, elevating his stock considerably before succumbing to the People's Elbow. These two would subsequently cross paths in a couple of tag matches, but this is their sole singles outing and one of the last matches from The Rock's full-time WWE run.
Because The Rock
Number 1, Brock Lesnar versus Hulk Hogan. The WWE roster in the summer of 2002 was evidently an embarrassment of riches. Because just a couple of weeks after The Rock and Eddie Guerrero closed things out on Raw, Brock Lesnar and Hulk Hogan did the same for SmackDown.
That was actually Hogan's last match.
Was on a collision course with the undisputed champion and had looked impressive since bursting onto the scene the night after WrestleMania 18. A match with Lesnar's #1 contendership at stake against the Hulkster, who was enjoying a nostalgia-fueled Indian summer, was an opportunity to look even more dominant heading into SummerSlam. And boy, did Brock take that opportunity. A true intergenerational clash between the past and future of sports entertainment, it's completely surreal to see them square off. They kept things simple and stuck to the job at hand, which was to make the NCAA Division I heavyweight champion look like an absolute killer. Their mission was accomplished and then some. This one-time dream match could have had a sequel, but Hogan backed out of a rematch planned for a few months later at Survivor Series when he realised that he wouldn't be winning the title and would in fact be putting over the new guy once again.
Hogan, you like was 50-something years old at the time.
That doesn't work for me,
Look at that ego. Alright y'all, great video, man. Let me know down below in the comments of what y'all thought of my reaction to this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.